Or maybe a few more. It's being particularly cranky. Hang on. There you go. You're live. Go ahead.
Okay, hi guys. I'm Amy Salvador, also known as Admiral and Cash. I'm a Serpent Knight from Goldenvale. I currently play in a park called the Barony of Twilight Peak up here in Canada. If you're joining us, this is part of the Bardic class for the Amtgard Arts Academy. So thank you for coming. And yeah, so let's do this. First off, for those of you that are here with us, does anyone have any questions or topics that you guys would like to see covered before I go into anything? Anyone?
Hello?
Hello. Yes.
Okay, I don't have a specific topic or anything like that, but I am hosting a major Bardic competition in January, so anything that relates to like structure and judging and like how well things are put together would be very appreciative on this end.
Absolutely fantastic. I love the fact that you're doing that, by the way. Super awesome. Yeah, okay, so there's a lot for this, so let's just go for per type of Bardic categories there are. The first one is one of the more popular ones is a vocal. When you're choosing a piece for your vocal Bardic, an important thing you want to remember is doing something that is either Amtgard appropriate or period appropriate. You can use modern things so long as they are of a topic of either, you know, the swords and sorcery type of fantasy thing that we do, or period type topics. You want to avoid songs that make actual reference to modern day activities. You know, if you say anything about twitting or twerking, it's not going to work. Yeah, so that's the first thing, is choosing the right song. Second thing is choosing the right song for your voice type. Some things will end up reaching notes that are perhaps too high for you or too low for you. So you want to pick a song that feels most comfortable in your voice and that also shows off the best qualities of your voice. Also, I'm going to say a million times, and I apologize ahead of time. Yeah, so even if you're doing maybe one note that's just slightly out of your range, it is something that judges are going to notice and they are going to make comments on. So try to pick something for your range. Also, for girls in particular, try to find a song of which you're not jumping octaves too much. And I say octaves, that's not exactly the quite word for it. Head to voice, or head to chest voice versus head voice. If you're doing a song that jumps between the two sounds a lot, it's harder vocally on you, and also it's difficult for the judges to understand how those two the switches work between the two. The sound also sounds pretty drastically different. Now, Sir Manama, you would probably be better acquainted with the change for guys, range-wise. So I'm actually really happy you're here, because you can actually speak to how that, like, as a girl, right? I'm more focused on, you know, how that sounds for us. Guys have a different ranges and different sounds in those ranges, right?
Yeah. The thing is that for guys have a huge difference in like their ranges and like even like what they sing. Like as far as like, there's actually a very big distinction between tenor songs and baritone songs, even though they will overlap often in ranges. And the reason why is because I mean, if you're thinking about a musical staff, in an A, guy voices can't really keep going up. There's very few guys that can actually do that. So like most people, it's all about that baritone range. And singing tenor songs, singing high songs for guys in general, it doesn't really matter the skips as much. It really just matters about reaching that end of the range of your voice before it tries to flip over to that head voice, which for almost everybody is at an A, like a high A for the guys.
Because the falsetto is very different sounding.
Yeah, no,
and one of the questions I actually had about female singers was I've actually had a lot of requests for breath support for female singers, which is actually really important for people trying to choose like songs, like how well they can support their breath for like depending on like their ballads or things. Like how I don't really know. And one of the things I wanted to ask you eventually was, you know, how do I train or teach women how to support like their breath or like even like support their voice? I don't know if you have any advice for that.
yeah, I know.
The cool thing is like
This is going to be.
you can look at a sheet of music and you can find
This song.
where you should be taking breaths.
First
Right?
layer.
You don't want to be taking breaths in the middle of words. You don't want to be taking breaths in the middle of a phrase. A lot of times you just look at.
Oh, did it?
And if you click on your portrait, there should be like a arrow.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. That was weird. Okay. I don't know what the last thing you heard me say. Yeah, so put your breath marks in for phrases, practice, starting and ending where you're just try to do this whole thing on one breath type of thing. Also, what you want to do is actual breathing exercises. Now, the cool thing about girls is that there are two places we can breathe from. So basically, you know, you have your normal, your diaphragm, right? Where you're focusing right in here, right? That's where your breath is. You're starting here and you're expanding through your ribs. Now, we also have a secondary place that we can do this from, and it's actually at the top of our backs here. So you can see how my hand moves out, yes? This is actually where women breathe when they're pregnant. Because when you have so much pressure, you know, in that area, right? Because, you know, when you have a child there in your diaphragm area, you can't get a really good strong breath from here. So that way you're able to breathe out of your back. I only learned this because I have asthma, and I was having a really hard time breathing from my diaphragm because I would close off my chest. So if you have asthma, this is a great place to train your breathing. Now, what you can do to practice this is you get a scarf. So I have a scarf. I'm just going to take my belt off. Sure, why not? Okay. So you would get a scarf, and you would put it on your back. Right? Hold it out. Make sure you've got it taut. And when you breathe, you should feel it pulling. So that's so you can tell exactly if you're actually hitting that because you'll be pulling on the scarf. So that's a good thing to do with breathing. Now, male, female, whatever, it does not matter. Breathing is really, really important no matter who you are, because not only will it carry you from section to section, phrase-wise, but also it will support the strength of your notes and the pitches that you're attempting. A lot of times people will take an insufficient breath and then they'll try really high notes, or they'll try really long phrases, and they'll end up cutting off at the end. The judges will nail you on that, for sure. So it's really, really important to practice, your breath control. Just do practices where you take in your air for X amount of seconds, and then you hold it, and then let it go for X amount of seconds. Try to build up the length, keep going and going and going, see how long you can do it for. That will be a good practice for sustaining, and also to see where your limits are. So that's pretty much with breath, which will go into the next section of actual supporting your notes. The higher you go, the more air you will need to make it consistent with your lower sounding notes. You need more air for higher pitches than lower. Again, Semanima, I don't know if that changes with guys in particular, because I know the falsetto is very different sounding. Do you have any actual... Is there any difference, do you find?
Well, most of mine actually has to do with, I actually managed to get some formal voice training from a college professor when I was going to college in Virginia, which was very nice. And we talked about breathing quite a bit. That was like the one thing he worked on me. And the biggest thing that his advice was because of the way... Sorry if there's a lot of background noise.
Should I turn it off?
It's fine. It's the dishwasher machine. Sorry. So a lot of the times, what it was you shouldn't hear yourself take a breath. And the biggest thing people think about when they do go take a breath is they think about this pressure that they need to feel in their lungs as it expands. And it's actually the quite opposite. For us to take a breath, we need to actually create a vacuum to suck in air. And the only way you do that is actually by relaxing your stomach muscles and allowing your diaphragm to just do it. Because you can't control your diaphragm. It's an involuntary muscle. So the only thing you can do is just provide the space for your lungs to go. So really it's about relaxing your stomach, relaxing the lower part of your body, and then all of a sudden you'll just feel the air rush in. And then when you practice that, eventually it's just and for guys, we don't have to worry about that up here. So it's really just about being very almost think about a fighting stance, where you keep your shoulders back and you keep your hips in place, so that when you do this expansion, your diaphragm is set up to be successful about taking that air in. And at first it feels very funny, you feel like you're taking in too much, or you don't even feel like you're taking in the air at all. But when you start practicing that way, it really helps with projection and with your tonality and everything else. And for guys, it's almost everybody needs to practice breathing first before, if they really want to get, if they're okay with singing but they feel like they're being stuck, going back and redoing how they breathe and then re-practicing their songs they already know with the new breathing is crazy cool.
Oh yeah. And that's a great point. If you try to take a breath like that where you're just going, right? You're going to do it here, and it's going to get cut off and clamped, and all of a sudden you'll have no air in, you won't be able to get anything out, and it will cause everything just to tense up. So yeah, posture is also a big thing, because if you're slumped over, right, you're not going to get that good deep full breath that your lungs to expand, right? You want to be in a position that your lungs have the full capability to get as large as they can. So be very mindful of how you're standing, because very little things, just having your shoulders a little slightly forward, can make a huge impact. So you want to be nice up, you want this open, you want this open, you want to keep everything just relaxed, right? You also don't tense up. The more you tense, then everything's just going to close up on you. So yeah, when you are practicing, try to take, full breaths, and try to not suck in to where you are making that loud noise, right? It should be fairly silent when you're taking it in. It shouldn't be obvious. Yeah, that was a great point. I don't know why I mentioned that before. Yeah, so posture, breathing, then posture, or kind of together. Supporting your notes with your air. Let's tag into that a little bit. You want to make sure that you make everything the same projection-wise, unless there is a specific notation saying that something should be softer or something should be louder, or there should be, like, you know, a gradual change to the next. If you are just singing something, just everything the same, then make sure that your low notes and your high notes are having the same, I don't want to say force, the same sound, force-wise. A lot of times what you'll notice is somebody will have very strong, loud, and they will go up higher, and then they're really soft up here, right? You want to make sure that it sounds the same. You don't want it to sound like there are two different singers doing this piece, right? Again, with guys, it's a little different, but girls end up changing from high to low a lot. So please, if you are going up into your upper octaves in your head voice, make sure that it sounds similar to your chest voice. Yeah. Honestly, that's a big thing that ends up happening. Judging-wise, a lot of times it'll be saying that there isn't enough support, there isn't enough air, or some people will just straight up say, this piece is too high for you, if you don't attack your high notes the same way as you do with your low. Let's go into stage fright. This is a big thing, and this will carry over for all the other types of Bardic pieces. What is going to happen when you get up there is basically an adrenaline rush. You're going to get excited. Even if you don't have, you know, stage fright, you will still have a physical reaction to being in front of others and about to perform something for them. The most notable thing is the speed of your voice. A lot of times you will speed up whatever you're doing. It's just a matter of excitement, really. So when you go into it, consciously know you're going to rush. So focus on pulling back and slowing down what you're doing. It might seem like you're going the speed of a snail. To everyone else, it'll sound like everything's normal. So make sure you take your time and articulate. Because articulation also is something that judges will nail you on. The more you speed up, the more you start focusing on your audience and not your piece, your diction's going to go off, you're going to be slurring your words, you're going to be... You get the idea. Also, something to be very aware of is motions you make with your body. I've seen performers where they start rocking.
Yeah. Okay.
It's really, really obvious when they do that you can tell when somebody's nervous. Sometimes it'll be a side-to-side thing. Sometimes they'll just do this with their head. Sometimes they'll be doing some finger thing, right? They'll be just keep on moving their hands or tapping their foot, or maybe just shaking their one leg up and down like this. Make sure you know what your body does in those moments. A lot of times somebody will have some type of antsy little thing that they do, and they won't know that they do it. So
No, I'm
a
good.
lot of times you won't know that this is even a thing until you start performing, and all of a sudden you're getting marks on it. The best thing I can tell you is if you are going to do a piece where you're competing in front of somebody, or even just for funsies performing in front of others, practice in front of others. This is the best advice I can give you for this sort of thing. You can practice a piece a million times every day for a year, and when you do it live for a tournament, the words go out of your head, you start rocking, you start closing up your breath, and you'll never understand why. There are some things that adrenaline and excitement and that sort of thing affects the human body in different ways that you can't just prepare for. The best thing you can do is put yourself in a similar situation, just so you can be more prepared that will happen. Also, it'll help you get more comfortable performing in front of others when you do it more often. So there's that. Also, if you are having a hard time looking at people when you're performing, look directly above their head, like right here. It's strange because in Amtgard I've seen a lot of judges where they've marked you off for not looking at the judges. Now, I mean, there are some particular pieces of which, you know, you want to have some form of eye contact, you want to be looking around, you want to make sure that they're engaged. But also what I went to college for this, and what they taught us was when you are doing an audition, if you stare into the eyes of your judges, they won't know how they're supposed to react. They won't know if they're supposed to smile, if they're supposed to deadpan. They're afraid that what they're going to do on their face will affect you. They feel pressure, like they're being forced to do something. So they always told us never look directly into the eyes of your judges. Always look just like above their heads. So that way you're still singing to them, but not at them in particular. If you're in a situation where, you know, you want to gauge it a little bit, right? Because you don't want to also be like, I'm going to stare up at the sky and have no interaction with my audience. You want to avoid that. But I wouldn't suggest staring at one judge and just eyeing them down, because it will make them uncomfortable. Oh, what's next? Oh, so something that really helps with keeping in the moment, keeping your head focused in what you're doing is your characterization. If you are doing a piece that is a particular character, know everything there can be about that character. If it's from a show, know everything you can about that show. If you're doing a particular scene, understand every aspect of what that scene is. You want to know why your character is there, what they're doing, how they're doing it. I have seen it way too many times where somebody will perform a piece from a show that they have never heard of, they have never seen, and they have no idea who their character is. And they'll end up performing it, and it'll be like, it's interesting that you did this, because he's supposed to be completely this. And they'll be like, oh yeah, I don't know, I just like the song. That will hurt you judge-wise, absolutely. Also, when you're doing a specific character, do your best to dress as your character. This is a gigantic pet peeve of mine. If you're supposed to be this monstrous thing and you show up in a t-shirt and jeans, the magic's kind of lost. It's really hard for your audience to actually believe you're this hideous, monstrous thing. For those that were at Keep, I was the one who did the Into the Woods scene. So I was the witch, and I had full prosthetics, I had a wig, the full costuming, and everyone that was in the show with me was also costumed. That is the type of, I mean, now, mind you, you don't have to do a full-blown show where you're costuming everybody. That's kind of extreme, right? But for yourself, you know, not everyone's a costumer, you know, either, and that's completely understandable. See if you can borrow stuff from friends. See if, you know, whatever you can do or whatever you do have, just try to do something to where you're not wearing t-shirts and jeans. You'll find that the clothing, you know, in the costuming is basically the skin of the character, and you'll find it a lot easier to be that character if you look like them. That has always been something that has been a million times easier if I'm looking like the person I'm trying to portray, you know. If you can look in the mirror and not see yourself, then your audience isn't going to see you either. Yeah, okay. Next point is entrances and exits. This is a big thing that people get judged on also. If you do not have a clear, distinct beginning and end, your judges won't know when you start and when you finish. To combat this, I've actually made a portable stage out of PVC pipe and just a sheet, basically. It's pretty cheap. It's portable because it all just disconnects. If you can do it, awesome. If you can't, that's fine too. Sometimes you'll be in a situation of which you will have a preset stage. And in that case, it's wonderful. But if not, just make sure that you're very obvious when you're starting, when you're finishing. Now, I've seen it done a few ways. There are certain people that will say scene when they begin and scene when they end. It's a clear, defined start and stop. Other people will start where they just have their head down, and they'll just take a moment, and then they'll go. And when they're done, you take a moment, go back down, and then say thank you to the judges. Again, clear start, clear end. Other people have just been like, okay, I'm this person. Once upon a time I was doing this, and there isn't that clear distinction of, oh, I'm in character, oh, I'm starting my piece. And then when you're done, and then we finished this. Are you, do we clap? Is it, oh, okay, we're done. Yeah, right. So you want to make sure that it's very obvious that you're done. If you notice that you've gone for like 3 minutes and nobody's clapping or saying thank you, you're done. Start, stops, yep. Scrim shit. Oh, also, memorization. Please memorize the things that you're doing. A lot of people will have it partially memorized. Some people will just hold a piece of paper. Make sure if you know you're gonna go full-blown memorization, know it so hard. The best thing you can do is just run it through in your head over and over again. Are you standing in front of a stove cooking pasta? Cool, run it in your head. Are you brushing your teeth before you go to bed? Cool, just run it in your head while you're doing that. Anytime you have just idle moments, just think it through in your head. Whenever I'm trying to study something, I'll go through a script and read through it like 10 times before I go to bed. Just so that's the last thing I'm thinking about, and when I wake up in the morning, I do it again. Just you get into practices that will help you remember things and keep it more, you know, in your mindset. Repetition is the best thing you can do for memorization. Now, mind you, everyone will memorize things in their own way. This is just something that works for me, particularly, and hopefully will work for you. Something that I notice some people will do is they'll look at a full, gigantic thing, and they'll be like, nope, it's a lot of stuff, I can't do it. Don't look at it as a full thing. Take the very first section, ignore the whole rest. Just focus on this. Memorize it, repeat it a million times if you need to, only focus on this. Once you feel more comfortable with this, then take this. Don't take this, just take the very next thing and do it again. If you take it in sections, it'll be a lot less intimidating for you when you do it. Also, highlighting. I find highlighters are really, really useful, especially if you're doing something that has, you know, if you're not doing like a competition, you're doing like a show with your friends. Highlight your parts. You know, if you're doing a duet or that sort of thing, if you highlight just what you're doing, your eye will focus directly to there, and you'll know where you are, and it'll also make it look less intimidating. If you're looking at a full sheet, it's going to scare you. But if you're only looking at 2 words here and 2 words here, not that bad. Also, it helps you, you know, focus on the words better. A lot of times what'll happen is if you're looking at a sheet of music, you know, you're looking at the black and the white and the text and the notes and the staffs and everything that's in there. And it's a lot to look at. So if you only highlight just the words you're saying, your eye will focus onto that, and it will cut out all of the background stuff. Is there anything else before I move on to a different category, voice-wise? Anything more for voice? Okay. Next thing, oratory. This is also known as recitation. So there's different things you can do with this. A lot of times you'll find poems, sonnets, and monologues. Those are your most common recitations. Some of them will rhyme, some of them will be free verse. It's really more of a personal taste for you. It's not like one will be far more better than the other. Word of caution, though, if you are doing something that is Shakespearean, so sonnets or monologues, know the rules. There are a number of rules that go into doing Shakespearean anything. And a lot of times your judges will know those rules. And if you break them, you'll get marked on them. Now, mind you, if you do a Shakespearean piece well and you know what you're doing, that can score you some really good points. Basic rules, like there's a lot, but certain things to look for, certainly. If it's from a show, know the show. If you're being a particular character, know that character. Know the scene that you're doing. There are particular characters in Shakespeare that have very physical characteristics. You know, like a hunch or some sort of, you know, thing to where if you're just standing up straight and you're just doing your thing, you know, the judges will know the piece. They'll know that you don't know who you're being at the moment. If you look at a monologue in Shakespeare, what you want to do is the punctuation is key. Those are your breath marks. Those are your pauses. If there is a full sentence and you take a pause in the middle or you do some type of breath, or you're going to get marked off. Everything in Shakespeare is about pacing. In sonnets, you've got the 14 lines, and the last two are a very particular thing on its own. I'm pretty sure it's a rhyming couplet at the end. It's been a really long time since I've done that. So focus on those. Those are going to be the moral of the story is this. This is the super important, I've just told a story, but this you need to know. So focus on those last two lines. Some things will be rhyming. Know what things you should be making very obvious of the rhyme, and there are certain things of which you want it to be more natural. What comes to mind is Puck's monologue at the end of Midsummer Night's Dream. It is rhyming, but you don't want to make it super obvious that it's rhyming. It's supposed to feel more natural, like you're just having a conversation and it just happens to rhyme. You'll find that a lot in Shakespeare, that there are a lot of rhyming things, but you're not supposed to overly emphasize the fact that it's rhyming. So be cautious of that. Also, original works. Go for it. I think it is really, really wonderful when people write their own monologues, essentially, and perform them. You will get bonus points for sure. If you can write your own thing and perform it, I think it's so super cool. Alex Missette comes to mind. She wrote this beautiful piece for my knighting and gave me permission to perform it at Keep, and it is so immensely cool to perform something that's actually about your own character, because no one knows your character better than you. So if you ever want to do something where you're writing your own recitation, if you have a strong developed character, do it. Totally do it. Write an awesome monologue for your character and then present it. I think that is so amazingly cool. And that's the same thing also vocally. If you write music and you write your own song and you perform it, kudos. Like, you will get bonus points for that for sure. Anytime you do an original work, it is definitely looked fondly upon. Yeah, so that's pretty much that with that. As I said before, all the physical stuff from vocal does apply to this in recitation, right? Don't rush your speech, articulate, be cautious of any nervous tics that you're going to do, practice in front of others, make sure everything is properly memorized. Also, what you want to do is, if you are doing a particular character and they have any physical characteristics, any type of way that they stand or walk or move, the best thing to do is go in front of a long mirror and actually practice in front of it. Try doing things where you're adjusting your shape, where you're playing with postures. Maybe you're doing something very regal. Maybe you're doing something very not. Play with that physical, that physical aspect of it, because that will also enhance your piece. At all times, if you're doing a character, you want the audience to believe you are that character. You want them to be pulled in by it. You want them to believe more than anything that that they're in that moment with their character and there is nothing else around. It is a really awesome feeling when you can take your judges on a journey and they're fully okay with going on that journey with you, and they feel that it's real. Now, mind you, the second you break it, you've lost them. If you're doing a piece and it's very intense and you're in character and then you forget a line, you're like, oh crap, sorry guys, hold on. Oh right, I'm saying this. It ruins everything. It breaks your character. It breaks everything that you were just building on, right? When you do a performance and you're doing any type of character, you have to get your audience to trust you as that character. And once you do something to lose that trust, it is practically impossible to get it back. If you happen to forget your line, just stay in character. Stay in character. You might have to improvise to get out of it. That's fine. The judges won't always know every single line to your monologue. If you can just get yourself to a point to where you remember the next phrase, then do it. If perhaps you just need a minute, just to, not a full minute, but a moment to just think, crap, what is the next word? Don't show it. Stay in character, just be in there, take a pause, then continue. It could be just that single moment in time that you just need to restart. But the second that you show it physically, you've lost it. You've completely lost that that trust that that your audience has put in you. And the more characterization you do, the harder it is. I think of when I played Peter Pan once, and having to convince somebody that you are a different gender and a different age is extraordinarily hard. So your audience will already be hesitant to completely believe that that is a true situation. But if you can convince them, it's freaking magic. It is quite an experience, and there aren't really words to explain how that feels. And if you can do it, do it. It's so immensely cool. Cosplay is a really good example of that. If you ever go to a con and you see somebody that just stays in character that whole time, it is supremely cool. So try to keep that in mind when you're doing these performances. Also, if you forget your words, avoid looking straight up. When you're doing something and you go like that with your eyes, that is a dead giveaway that you don't know what you're saying. It's things like that that are red flags to a judge. If you say if you say anything that is not your lines or you being in character and improvising to your next lines, it's a red flag. You'll get marked. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for that. Anything else on recitations before I go to instrumental? Recitations. Anyone? Okay. Let's go to instrumental. This one I find a lot of people don't do, which is sad, because it is really, really great when people do it. Now you want to do the same type of thing as you're doing with vocal and recitation, where you're going with either a fantasy piece or a period piece. don't think that if your instrument is not a medieval instrument that you can't perform on it. I found a lot of people will like have an instrument or play it all throughout high school and maybe even college, and they won't ever even think to be able to do it for, you know, for a bardic entry. And do you know what? If you know how to do it, do it. It is underused. Now I've seen amazing performances with like violin and guitar is usually, you know, the top one that you see most often. I myself play clarinet and bass clarinet. I've seen people do flute. I've seen people do Native American flute, harp. I've even seen people do piano where they'll get like a keyboard, like an electronic keyboard, and just bring it right on site with a battery in it. Works great. Yeah, so definitely if you have an instrument and you know how to play it, definitely explore that as an option for you. Yeah. Again, you want to do the same type of things that you do with vocal, where you don't want to pick pieces that there are notes that are too high or too low for you as an instrumentalist. I'm thinking of like clarinet in particular, right? Because if you go too high, there are some notes that you can squeak on, and that happens with a lot of wind instruments. That's very common. Yeah, so play pieces that are within your range of playing. To pair with that, there are also some pieces where there are runs, which is just another way of saying a lot of notes in a very short amount of time. If you cannot move your fingers fast enough to do a clean run, maybe that's not the best piece. Make sure that if you are doing a run with pieces, break it down. Do it super slow. Make sure you know each individual note that you're hitting. And then you just speed it up, right? If you can get every note perfect at this tempo, then do it a little faster. Try it again. And then do that a little faster. And then try it again. And do it a little faster. By the end, you should be able to just do it fully at tempo. When you're doing instrumental pieces, important things to focus on. You know, you want your tone to be the same throughout, just like with vocal. Higher and lower stuff should be just as strong as the others, so make sure that it all sounds right. On top of that, what else is there? Something at the top of my head, and I lost it. Oh, yeah, sorry. Breathing and dynamics. When you're doing an instrumental piece, it's really important to focus on your dynamics. It will say in the piece exactly where those are supposed to happen. So make sure you know what all those mean, right? Because there'll be an F, there'll be a P, right? There'll be those sorts of markings. Make sure you know what those are, because each one of those is telling you a specific volume to do it at. Make sure they're also distinctly different. It should be very obvious when you're doing something piano and something when you're doing a forte. Phrasing you want to be careful with. put your breath marks in, just like you do with a vocal piece. There'll be certain phrases, and you do not want to breathe in between, right in the middle of a phrase, because it'll just cut it short, and you'll lose all the effect that you have in that build-up. If there are any breath marks already placed in it, then that means that the composer is really making a giant exclamation point of do not breathe anywhere else but here. A lot of times it'll be up to the instrumentalist to know or choose when those moments are. If it is already in there, then that is the composer saying, you don't have a choice, do it here, it's super important for this piece. So don't ignore that. Make sure you're watching where your accidentals are. It'll say right in the key signature what is sharp, what is flat. Be very aware of when those are happening. Even if you have to highlight or draw a circle on those when you're practicing. And that might help you, honestly, just to make sure that you're not missing them when you're going through your practice. Because those are the types of things that judges will also notice, right? They may not be instrumentalists themselves, they may not even have the score in front of them, but if you're playing a piece and it's all in the same key and all of a sudden you throw in a sharp note when it's not supposed to be, it will be very, very obvious. It will hurt your ear. So be very, very careful, because that's the sort of thing that that the judges are going to look for. That's pretty much it for that. Breathing, also do the same type of practice with breathing. If you are doing any type of stringed instrument, be very aware of hand position, where your thumb is placed, under bridges, and that sort of thing. For judges that do know, how you're holding your instrument can be judged. So make sure that you're doing the right posture, you're doing the right fingers. You want to make sure everything's proper. That's pretty much it for instrumental. Is there anything else instrumental before I move on? Anyone? Instrumental, instrumental, instrumental. Nope. Okay, cool. Is there anything else anyone would like to know? Any topics not covered? Yes. Kelly?
Yay, okay. Let's figure out how to so when I this is really weird because I can hear myself. Okay, so when I judge, I don't know Bardics necessarily as well as I know other stuff, and I'm kind of deaf, and so I would be like, yes, that sounded good. Is there anything that I should be looking for, aside from what you did touch on and say the judges will mark off this? I'm like, I don't know what that is, because not all judges are like, hey, I know everything about everything, and I wouldn't trust them if they were like that anyway. So anything that I should be looking for specifically?
Absolutely, absolutely. Memorization is the obvious. Any type of body tics that they do that isn't particularly a part of their character, if it's not a chosen thing, right? If you're doing a character where they keep on doing this with their hand, that's a choice, right? So you want to do things that are not choices, because a lot of times that's either tension or fear, that sort of thing. Posture is important, again, unless it is a characterization where their posture is part of the character, it is a choice. Tone, breathing, support. If you hear something that's nice and strong, then also something really soft, where it's not obviously supposed to be like, I'm singing soft now, right? If it's just like, soft, right? That means they don't have enough air support, right? Maybe it's not in their range even, right? focus on very drastic changes that sound off, right? An experienced person should be able to go low and high and everywhere in between, and it sound relatively the same. If not in sound, in support, in strength, right? Now, I mean, this takes more of a, more focused ear. But there are certain things where tone is a huge, huge thing. And for those that, don't go through ear training, right, it's really, really, really hard, right? And again, this is just like any other, type of artistic, medium. Your judge isn't going to know every single thing there is to know, right? Being trained to hear when people are out of tune isn't something that everyone is trained to do. Honestly, in this case, if you do find that there's anyone else on the judging panel that is a trained musician or sort of thing like that, it's okay to ask, right? It's okay to be like, did you hear anything off, right? Did you hear any mistakes tone-wise? I couldn't, because, you don't want to be not judging them on something just because you didn't hear it or understand it, right? Anytime I've ever been in a judging situation where I'm judging something that I am not, an expert in, I go to those who are, and I'm like, is this proper? Is this how you do this, right? Now, mind you, you don't have to be like, okay, cool, what do I score them, right?
Yeah.
Basically just, if somebody with a qualified ear is, here's the whole entire thing, and here's that there's not a single thing out of tune, then you know that there's nothing to mark them on out of tune, right? So definitely don't ask them how you should be scoring. Just ask them more of a experience, what they're hearing from something. I actually did one judging, and it was a Kingdom Dragon Master once. Somebody sang this song and went through the whole thing, and everyone's like, "Oh wow, that was beautiful, that was great," and I was like, there wasn't a single note in there that was in tune. Like, this was a song that I really loved, and I used to sing like every night before I went to bed for like a month, and I was like, I know every single note of this. Like, he didn't even start in the right key. Like, he started on the wrong note, and every note after that was off because of it. Like, you guys thought it was the most beautiful thing in the world, but I was just cringing the whole time. Now, mind you, he had a beautiful voice and did it really well, but he started off wrong, so everything else was wrong. Which is unfortunate, absolutely unfortunate. But that's the sort of thing, some people are going to hear things and catch things that not everyone else will. So use, if you can't use it with your ear, use theirs. Also things like, how do they pull you in? Do they pull you in at all? Are they basically just, like, if I'm doing a thing too right now, right? If I'm just doing a piece and I'm just kind of looking over here, right, and just kind of, that's not drawing you in as a judge, right? That's not, making any type of attempt to perform for you, right? That's just, I'm up here saying something. I don't really want to be here, right? That kind of stuff. Obvious things are when people forget things and don't cover it, right? If people are able to cover mistakes, even if you catch them, right, let them know. Good on you for actually not breaking character and keeping going. Be like, sure, I noticed that, like, something that you know by heart, right? Be like, or you're holding the manuscript in front of you, right? I noticed you improvised this, or you missed this word, but you never broke character and you kept going. Awesome, right? That should not be judged as harshly as breaking character, taking a moment, and then remembering it and doing it perfect, right? So if they end up saying it where they get every single word right, but they have to break character and take a minute to do it, that should be marked far worse than somebody missing something and being able to keep rolling with it. That's a big one. Like I said before, clear starts and stops are important. Characterization. I personally, I think everyone should be appropriately dressed for what they're doing. If you're wearing a t-shirt and jeans and you're doing, the Queen of the Night aria, it's, not a lot of bonus points there for not trying. Now, I mean, mind you, that's more of a presentation thing, right? If you're wearing a t-shirt and jeans and you sing the absolute most beautiful, most technically perfect Queen of the Night aria, then awesome, right? But if they had been doing it in a dress and they had been looking like, the Queen of the Night, then that wouldn't have made that score better, right? So that sort of thing. Just like with any other type of arts and sciences, right? Your presentation is important to boost the score. So when it comes to that sort of performance, that's where the presentation is, right? It's how they're presenting it. That's pretty much it, I think. Does that help?
Yes, thank you. You never know.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't ask the other judges, like, hey, so what did I miss? I should just not. I'm just gonna just stop judging Bardics, like at a certain level. Like, and I'm deaf. It's good. Shar level, yay!
Legit.
Can you hear me?
Well, yeah, but might come up. So
I want to know. So.
Right. Yeah. Anything else? Anyone else that's here? Is there anyone else that has any questions? I don't know if anyone has posted anything.
I can make a quick comment about that though, I guess, and if you want me to, about not if you're deaf or really hard, you're not really good at like listening to music.
Oh yeah.
So my biggest suggestion to people that are judging music is it's all about entertainment. So if you're it's to the point where you don't feel comfortable judging tonality, you don't feel comfortable judging like the musicality of what they're doing. I mean, the point of Bardics in the first place is to entertain people. That should be like the base score, and it's okay for you to not give that plus or minuses for the small plus or minuses for not doing specific things or doing specific things, and just going with like that was completely entertaining. Like, because even if we're taking average of judges, right? Some judges like entertaining things. Some judges like high technical things. Some judges, there's a whole. It includes everything, not just Bardics. So for those, you have to be I'm looking for entertainment. I'm looking for the thing that, like, I don't know, just how well it entertains you is the only thing you can do at this point. It's probably the best suggestion too, because it's the same thing that if I'm looking at Guard and I'm not necessarily the best when it comes to like how people sew the things. Like, I'm not really familiar with seams and stuff. So my biggest thing is how they structured their garb and how it looks. Like, if I can look at someone wearing that, am I going to be wowed by it? Is it going to be something like, wow, that looks awesome? And that's how my base judging happens. But everything else, I'm like, I gotta take with what I know about it, right? I'm gonna learn as I go along. But for now, what I do is I do a lot of that, and it's I think it's the best way to approach those types of things that you don't know much about. You just go with the entertainment value of it, or the how impressive it comes off, which is one of the reasons why presentation is so good. And well, considering this is a presentation art, you gotta go with that.
Yeah, it's weird when your art form is you presenting yourself, right? That's always been a weird one. Like honestly, it's like, oh yeah, no, I put this on a dress form and I walk away, right? It's just like, I'm my piece. Hi. You know, it's always a little weird.
Now we have to make sure that you're anonymous, so we don't know who's performing.
That's another thing too, right? That I thought it was always really weird because, you know, a lot of times, you know, when you're doing tournaments, it is anonymous, right? So you'll go through the whole entire thing, and everyone will be anonymous. The judges won't know anything, and then we go to Bardic, and it'll be like, I'm gonna do my piece now, and I'm totally anonymous, and you have no idea who I am. Oh wait, part of the judging is based on my face. Cool. It's like, you can't really hide it.
I think that anonymous part, even, I don't mean to go away from Bardic for a moment, but like it keeps. I was judging some things, and like I knew who did them, and I'm like, I don't know why I know that this person did it. I don't even know this person, but I know this is their piece, and this is their piece, and this is their piece, because you can see who it is. So like being anonymous is, it's like, yeah, we're really anonymous, really. But we're
I
not.
absolutely agree. You know, and this is something, you know, we were talking about that the other panel that we did, right, was the whole, like, there are certain people that there are some people where they do a specific art form that no one else does. How do you be anonymous with that? How? Like, I do toothpick art. Who else is gonna be doing toothpick art, right? Like,
Somebody
like,
wants to
could
score.
be someone else.
Like, oh, that must be Anne's. I'm gonna do this.
Like, oh, this is anonymous. You don't know that. Could be a million other people. But yeah, so
You can't do that.
that's the same thing with Bardic. Is you don't have that anonymity.
Unless you want to put on like a green, like the suit.
Morph suit.
Nobody would even know. Oh, that's your body type.
I
Ah!
was thinking, oh, that's perfect. No one would ever know. Do a movement piece and just, oh, right. It's like, oh, you're what, like 7.5 feet? Yeah, could be anyone. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of movement, because I keep forgetting that this is actually a thing now. When I started, we didn't have movement as a category. So let's talk about movement entries. Dance is probably the most obvious of this. You find a lot of belly dancing. Now there are certain like tribal dances, Polynesian dances, that sort of thing. If you are going to do that, just like any other type of Bardic thing, know the format of what you're doing. If you're doing like a ballet piece, know your positions, know your moves, know, you know, everything that goes into that, because if you have a judge that has been a prima ballerina for, you know, 10 years, they're going to know everything you mess up, right? And just like, you know, Sir Manama was saying, it is performance, right? You want to present yourself. When it comes to movement, be very aware of every part of your body. I think that is the biggest thing to remember for any type of movement art. A lot of people be like, okay, I'm focusing on my arms and they're doing this, but they're not focusing that their legs are like stuck like this and maybe their whole upper body is moving and it's very fluid, but they forgot that they have a second half of their body and they're not thinking about it, right? So all of a sudden it'll be like, oh yes, it was this beautiful fluid motion for half of your body, right? You want to make sure that if you're doing a body movement, that your whole body is involved. Now, I'm certainly not saying that everything has to be moving all the time. I'm just saying be aware of the motions you're making. Make sure that if you are making a focus on perhaps, you know, a certain step that you're doing with your lower body, be aware of where your hands are. Be aware of, you know, the shape that your hands are in. Especially if you're trying to do something that is very fluid. If any part of you is stiff, then you're gonna break that look of the fluid nature of it. Now, when people are saying, you know, movement category, you know, a lot of people are thinking dance, and that is absolutely the most common thing, for sure. But there are other things that you can do also. I saw this one thing where somebody did a magic show, and it was fantastic. That's movement. Think of all the things that are movement. I do sword fight choreography myself. And that's something that I'm hoping to do for the future. But it's movement. It's choreographed movement, right? There are so many things that can go into this category, and I think a lot of people don't realize how many options they have. There might be something that they are masters at, but they never really thought, oh, yeah, I could throw this into Bardic, right? Now, mind you, you know, look at your particular kingdom's Kapora, see what, if you have a movement category. I know when I started the game, we didn't have movement as part of our Kapora. We do now, which is awesome. You know, miming. I learned that recently. Movement, right? Anything that you're doing that involves your body and movement and choreographed movement or that sort of thing can be classified under movement. So go out there, try stuff, have fun with it, and think outside the box, for sure. For anything Bardic related in general, I think the best advice I can give you is go out, have fun, try to push, you know, the boundaries of what's been done and what you've done before. Be original. Try things. Above all, just try things. Have fun. If you go and you mess up, not the end of the world. I know it's hard to think it at the time, but I bet you learned something from it. I bet you know exactly what you did, and the next time you do it, you won't do it again. But if you didn't do that mess up in the first place, then how would you ever learn from it, right? We learn from our mistakes. So don't be afraid to make mistakes, because it only means that you'll be able to learn, right? When you're, you know, about to perform something for somebody, you know, I was talking about this in the panel I did before. Your audience doesn't want to see you fail. Your judges aren't thinking, okay, what mess up can I mark you off on? They want to see some great performance. They want to be entertained. They want to see the best you can do. They're rooting you on. They don't want you to fail. So entertain them. Have fun with it. Just go out, be yourself. Just do something that you find fun. A lot of times people end up psyching themselves out before they ever go on, and they'll end up messing up because all they're thinking is, I'm going to mess up. You know, it's a fulfilling prophecy type thing, right? If you go into it and you think, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to have fun and I'm going to perform for my friends, and this is going to be a good time, and they're going to enjoy it and I'm going to enjoy it, and it's just going to be fun. If you go in it with that mindset, it's going to be so much better if you know, than going in thinking, I'm going to screw up, I'm going to mess up all my lines, I'm going to forget my words, I am going to start panicking, I'm going to start tilting, I'm going to start just bouncing, they're just going to hate me, they're going to mark me off on everything I do. You can see the spiral that happens, right? All of a sudden, all you're thinking is, there's no way to succeed. There is no chance, and all that's going to happen is as soon as I walk out there, I've already bombed it, right? The mindset you go into a performance is the absolute key to this. And if you're trying to fight stage fright or nerves, just normal nerves, right? it's all about the mindset that you're going into it with. That's honestly the absolute best advice I can give you. Go in there with the mindset of have fun, entertain, have a good time. They want me to succeed. Um, that's honestly the best. Any other questions? Movement or otherwise?
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely, go for it.
How would you encourage shires and baronies and groups to encourage a bardic community, a positive place? It's really easy for people to fall into the mindset of complaining about either bad experiences they've had or even bad performances. The bad bard exists. It's one of the things I'm campaigning against in my life, and I will always campaign against that. We must have bad bards. We all are squawky birds when we start. But we need to encourage the squawky bird to continue on the journey to become something else. So what advice do you have to kind of offer people, musician or not, because you don't have to be a bard in any of the forms to encourage someone to bring that to a group?
Absolutely.
I don't want to dance with swords, but clearly there are people that want to dance with swords, and you should dance with swords the best you can dance with swords. And I love it. However you want to do it. You should try it on a ball. It'll be great. But you know what I mean? I don't ever want to put people down. And how do we encourage that without, Amber will understand. We end up momming. Well, let's talk nice to each other. Those are really mean words you're using. What's a nice word you can use there? But that is kind of what we need to encourage to build a bardic community.
Compliment sandwich.
Yeah.
Compliment sandwich.
I love that, by the way. Absolutely love that. So, something that I find is really helpful for that, and I think that is such a huge thing. I've been doing this 10 years, right? I actually went to college as a voice major, right? I've come into this game as a singer. Now, not everyone's going to do that. There's going to be people who have never sung in front of anyone ever in their lives. And you know what? That's okay. This is a place to learn. Everything you do, if you've never done garb before, if you've never done armor or art or anything, we all start somewhere.
Right.
I didn't.
You can see that. Yeah.
Back in high school, you learn every step you go. No one starts off perfect at anything, ever, anything. Natural talent or not, you always start somewhere. So it is hugely important to support people when they are learning, when they are interested. If they're interested, that's the best possible thing. Because if you have somebody who is willing to learn, then you can teach them anything. And they will practice, and they will become great. That's really how it works. So, for encouraging and starting off, even on a shire level, something I used to do was put on shows for feasts. Something I love to do, just short little plays, maybe 10-15 minutes long. And you can do this where have a bunch of people who are interested. Do you know a song? Do you play an instrument? Do you know a monologue? Do you want to put on a little skit? Have like time slots and have people sign up and make it like court feast entertainment, right?
And that is also something you can use ranking people to get involved with. If they want to encourage bardic in their community, they say, "We want this. Fill my slots."
Yeah, for sure.
So,
right?
How can we encourage a trickle-down system kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, so you've got
People are really bribable with food. So hold a bardic night maybe and offer snacks.
Yeah, I mean, like, and
I believe traditionally for bards it's alcohol, but food.
Things before where it was like, hey guys, we're having a bardic night at my house. Someone bring a guitar and we're just gonna kind of do like that campfire sort of. Everyone sits around and just sings, right? You get the support of everyone else singing, right? So it's not like you're forced to sing by yourself. It gives you an opportunity to get used to singing around others, but also have the support of singing with others. Now, I mean, like, there's also bardics happening at events, like when everyone sits at the campfire, right? Um, those are great opportunities to foster singing, getting people just to let loose and have fun and get used to just being around each other in that type of setting. Um, and the more comfortable you get, all of a sudden, maybe do a solo at one of those bardics, right? It's not like there's like a certain set list and certain people are and are not allowed to sing, right? A lot of times it'll just be like, okay, who wants to do something next? I don't know, what's the next thing we should do? I don't know, let's do something from Great Big Sea. I don't know, that's up in here in Canada. We sing a lot of Great Big Sea. But yeah, so use things where you're just having a singing bardic party. Do things where, you're fostering the campfire bardics at events. Do things where, you've got people performing at feasts. And for those who are more acquainted with performance and doing that stuff, if you have somebody who's willing to put on like a short little show thing, do that. Just be like, have you ever wanted to try this? Cool. I'm going to run this. Just show up and do it, right? Instead of being like, it's all on you, you need to prepare this, you need to know how to do this, and you need to be willing to do it by yourself, right? A lot of the things that I would do is commedia dell'arte, which for those who don't know, it's an Italian like improv art form. So everyone wears masks, and each type of mask represents a type of character, right? So you've got the lovers, you've got the maestro, you've got the capitano, you've got, and each one has a way that they stand, a way that they talk, a way that they, certain things like this guy's obsessed with money, this guy is just pretends like he's really brave but is actually the biggest coward ever, right? And those are just like, they're stereotypes of a character. And it's all improvised. So the cool thing is that allows you an opportunity to have people performing, but does not require them to memorize anything, because that's, a deterrent a lot of times when you're doing stuff, is that everyone's like, I'm afraid of having to memorize this and then getting all these words right in front of people. When people are doing quests as characters, they're improvising. That's what it is. You are picking a character and you are making up your words as you go. So doing something like an improvisation show where all you do really is have the setup of the scene, right? I did a thing where it was two capitanos, right? So these guys both think that, pretend that they are super, super brave, but they are super cowards, right? And it was a one-upmanship thing. I literally told them, just have fun at it, give outrageous stories, and the next story that comes up, make it bigger and better than the other guy. And they just go back and forth until a stuffed animal cat is brought onto the stage. And they freak out, and they're horribly terrified of this little kitten. And then it's all of, the truth comes out. Oh, no, I'm terrified. No, it's going to kill us all. No, you take care of it. You were talking about how you slayed all these things. You can totally take care of this. What? They weren't real? What are you talking about, right? And you just make it up, and you have fun with it, and you just invent this whole entire thing. So as long as you have a setup of a story, and you have a way for it to start, and you have a way for it to end, then the whole rest of it can just be made up. And it gives the actors an opportunity to, they don't have to make up a character because it's already preset of what it is. If you can give them just the structured outline, this is a scenario, and once you get to this, end it. It's a nice closed off block. They know how to start it, they know how to end it, and they know what has to be in between. and then they don't have to memorize anything, and they can make it up as they go. They treat it like a quest. Throw in a couple of those with a couple of different characters, and you got a whole show. Now, mind you, there's a million different show type things you can do. I've done Pyramus and Thisbe before, which was a Shakespearean show within a show that's in a Midsummer Night's Dream. Nice, quick show, but it's Shakespeare, and it's a whole beginning and ending thing. So there's lots of options. You can do shows that are 10 minutes, and they will seem longer than they are, and they fit in really well during feast time. So if anyone's ever willing to do that, go for it. Also, if anyone's ever interested in doing that sort of thing and would like help, advice, look me up. I'd love to help. Anything else? Does that answer your question? Okay. Anything else? Anyone?
To kind of, I guess, maybe add to that.
Yep.
Sorry, I can hear myself echo. It sucks. So me and Sir Kane here in the Rising Winds, well, I'm not in the Rising Winds right now, I'm in California, but when I go back, so me and Sir Kane, we actually came upon a quandary, actually with Sir Doc too out here. All three of us are big performance people in the Rising Winds. We've been doing it for a long time. And when I came back, apparently they hadn't really been doing Bardic very much anymore. And a lot of it had to do with what Sir Kane had talked to me about, which is something that I observed a lot kind of in Texas a lot, but in even some cases, some other places too, where you have these people who are amazing. They have a large rapport of music. They love performing at events, and that's awesome. You want those people there because it's really awesome to hear them perform. It's really awesome to do everything. But it's very intimidating for new people. So when you have someone go to these performances and are inspired, they're like, oh my god, that's awesome. I want to do something like that. Or I want to copy that song or something, right? And then they come back the next time. They come back to the Bardic Circle. And the other person just wants to do all of their songs, and they're not inclusive to those people. Hey, you should perform. Have you performed yet? Hey, you should perform. They need to be aggressive if they want to encourage other people to do it. And really, I guess, the biggest thing is me and Rob and Sir Kane want to do is right now we've been working on just encouraging people to come and perform and make sure that we perform enough to let people make sure that to external people who aren't performing that it's they want to stay and listen, right? Because you want to have an audience, but at the same time, don't drown people out. I've actually gone quite a few times now where I've made sure everyone who's wanted to perform has performed, and I've performed half of my stuff just to make sure, because next time when they come back, they have more, and it's better. It's all of a sudden you have this encouragement. And with new people at a new park, it's probably a really good idea to make sure that happens. And it really sucks because now you're depending on your senior people who do performance, and it's not necessarily you're not always going to find those people who have that attitude. But I would definitely suggest maybe putting some social pressure on them to make sure that happens. And also, those people just need to be very encouraging after they're done, regardless of how well they did. Encouraging them, you need to try that more. You need to do this again because they got up there to perform it in the first place. So it's kind of like the karaoke thing. You clap because they're done, or you clap because they were really good. Either way, you clap the same. But it's horrible to say that, right? But at the same time, like you said, and everyone started somewhere, and I started out pretty horrible, to be honest. When I started singing, I had just joined choir at high school. And that was my first time singing. So, and then where I got to from there is only because I had a drive and a competitiveness of wanting to be better and better and better. And we can't discourage people at the beginning because who knows what they'll be able to do in the end. So, anyways, I've got to go. So, thank you very much for this, Anne. So, good luck with the rest of the podcast.
Yeah, do you know what? And I'm gonna go off of what Sir Manama just said. For sure. I mean, you're gonna see knights that are gonna go out and they're gonna do performances, and these are people that have been doing this for 10 years. Please don't be discouraged. And please don't think that it's not attainable. We all started somewhere. and it's time and it's practice and it's screwing up a whole bunch. It's making a fool of ourselves and learning. And having teachers that are willing to give us a chance. If you are one of those teachers, please, please, please encourage as many people as you can. Be sure to, don't criticize and nitpick to death everybody. Like, point out what they did that was good. Point out what they can do to be better, to get better, and what they can do instead of pointing out what they can't do. Everyone can get better. Everyone can learn new things, and if you knock somebody down at the beginning, then they could have ended up being, the greatest singer in the game, and we'll never know. If you have a lot of theater experience, you have a lot of vocal experience, try putting on shows, try doing things where it's fostering and encouraging people who have interest. If there's anyone that has a spark of interest, nurture that, encourage that. It's the best thing that could possibly happen is somebody being interested. Because if there's no interest, then there's no way for anything to progress or become anything. So if you're like me and you want to see more Bardic stuff, be somebody who teaches the next generation of Bardic people, right? If they don't know, then they won't do it, right? All of us who have ever sewn anything had a teacher that showed them how. Showed them how to, thread a needle, thread a machine, how to make a T-tunic, whatever it was. Everyone started somewhere, and somebody taught them how to do it. If you know how to teach it, please teach it. Because that's how there's going to be more Bardics. That's how there's going to be more performances. That's how there's going to be more entertainment in this game in general. The people who know how to do it have to teach it. Yeah, but that's pretty much it. Any other questions? Anyone? Anything? Alright, I think that's pretty much it. If there's anyone that ever wants to brainstorm, ever want to put on a show, need some help, please look me up. Again, I'm Amy Salvador. You can also look me up by Admiral and Cash. I'm always willing to help. Message me anytime. I would love to teach. That's why we're here, right? And thank you, Amber, for creating this whole thing so that we have the opportunity to teach and to learn from this. So, Amtgard Arts Academy, super awesome. Amber, you're amazing for doing this.
Brief shameless plug. We're always looking for more teachers. Come teach things.
Come learn. Yeah, teaching and learning, all good things. All right, Amber, it's all on you now.
Okay, thanks, Amy. I'm going to stop the broadcast here.